manufacturers and some of their companies and industries. So already our project is one of those where partnership has worked really well. And what has been the outcome? The outcome is that this partnership has enabled us to have a very good space to be able to create and innovate products, circular products that in the next phases we are hoping that could be commercialized. So Ingeco has been very keen with keeping food within the food system. What do I mean? Before maybe we go to other practices like trying to reduce, recycle, we've been doing something we are calling upcycling. So upcycling means tapping the greatest and highest value out of a product before you are able to use it for another purpose. I'll give an example. In a product like avocado, the seeds, most of the times maybe we just want to dump them or make chicken feed. So for us, we made starch out of avocado seeds. And I'm happy because the scientists from the team are here. Dr. Mini is here, maybe Dr. You can raise your hand. So that is one of the scientists who've been able to do that, and this is research we have as well published. So that partnership and collaboration has given us a very good environment to be able to come up with particular types of innovations. We've made particle boards from mango seeds, from macadamia shells, from avocados as well. I know Winnie is also into another very interesting discovery of making a beverage. I don't want to say exactly what type of beverage, but a very enticing one from the green water of avocado processing, made energy drinks from coffee waste. So that is one result of collaborations. And with our talks with industry, we always ask them what types of engagements would you wish to have in particular parts of the value chain that make it easier for you to be able to transition. And one of those issues have been policy. I think together, Hannah, you can raise your hand. We've walked through and talked to some of the industries and what they think about the policy and the regulatory environment. And we've come to learn it's a double-edged sword. One, it creates a very good environment for us to have industrial symbiosis, for us to find value in our waste. That's one thing our policies have done for us. But at the same time, our industries are still telling us, or sometimes these policies are a bit confusing for us. It's a bit uncertain. I remember one of the industries told us policies are reactive. That's all they had to say. They said our policies are very reactive. So these are some of those issues of partnerships and collaborations we'd like to look at, and it's broader than that. It's also about issues of green financing, the issues of our retail, our consumption, and even the role that the media plays. So with that said, and without much further ado, I would like to introduce my panel and to welcome them, starting with Mr. Oscar Ogonyo. Thank you, Mr. Oscar. I think I'll leave it to my panelists to tell us what they do in their first round of questions. Then we have Dr. Richard Kainika. Okay. I don't know if he's here or you're presenting. Thank you so much. Then we have Dr. Fred Rojambo. Yes, thank you very much. And Mr. Sharma Ekolu, thank you. And vice versa, someone from, yes, Eunice Wanchiko. Yes. Yeah, and we also had Andrew Mainge of the Big Brother studio. Wamesema Jenzi asimame. We can proceed. So to the first question to my panelists, and maybe to start with Mr. Sharma. As you tell us more about EcoLoop, what do public-private partnerships for green transition mean to you from the perspective of the organization and the industry, and why do these partnerships matter?
Good afternoon. Thank you for that question. When we talk about partnerships, it's probably the pivotal thing for any kind of transition. And we have seen that even in the EcoLoop Solutions Africa, what we do is we provide solutions that seamlessly integrate smart waste management into everyday life. So without partnership, it's very difficult. We may say we have an innovation. Innovation just doesn't mean that you have made something, but innovation also also means bringing an innovation from somewhere else and applying it to the situation in which you are. That is also an innovative solution to address the problem in a particular geographical context as such. And without partnerships, it's impossible. Like basically in Equilibrium Solutions Africa, we've had the wonderful opportunity to partner with various development agencies, with regulators, institutions, research institutions, which have actually validated and given us POC, the proof of concept, in terms of how our innovation is practical in demonstrating its value being generated to users as such. In our case, we've got something called Aerobin, which is an organic composter. It transforms organic waste into nutrient-rich liquid and solid fertilizer. And it's an off-grid solution. No electricity, no additives, no manual intervention, no maintenance cost, and believe you, no foul smell. So we actually, started this journey with a few partners. We got promoted to agencies like KCIC, Kenya Climate Innovation Center. Then we partnered with various schools as well as other institutions, gated communities, associations, which actually helped us in taking the solution to the grassroots level. And through schools, we are actually educating students how, through CBE, they really need to learn how practical waste management can also transform into resource recovery and climate action. So students are learning this and they're taking it back home, and this is how social action is going to take place. So these partnerships have really helped us.
Thank you so much. Maybe we could hear from Eunice, Vice Versa Global. What do partnerships mean in your industry? And tell us a bit of what you do.
Thank you so much for that question. My name is Eunice Mora. I am a journalist and I'm also the co-founder of Vice Versa Global. So what we do as an organization is we focus on telling African stories from solutions point of view. And in my work, I have extensively reported on public-private partnerships. And how I've actually experienced it is that the responsibility of media, especially when it comes to these partnerships, is to translate this into practice, especially for the public. And allow me to expound much on that. Just recently, we concluded producing a knowledge product for a portfolio of 34 private partnerships. And there was this particular story that we actually put in Ghana. And it was a partnership between the government, the private sector, and environmental organizations. And they wanted to restore land that had been destroyed by illegal mining. And they faced a lot of community resistance. And the reason as to why they did is because there was not a lot of time invested in informing the communities why these partnerships were actually important. And they had to go back and spend 18 months explaining to these communities the reasons as to why these partnerships are actually important. And that is the role that I actually see media playing, translating these partnerships, helping the communities understand why are these partnerships important, how is it going to affect me as a person, does it allow me probably to have a job, because when you think about you as a person, you're going to think about the practical consequences of what these partnerships actually bring to you. So that is some of the experiences that I've actually seen, and it's also very important for organizations to bring on board, not just bring us on board when probably you're launching a policy or you're launching a project, or at the end involve us in the in-between. We want to understand exactly how that partnership unfolded, because that is where the knowledge actually is.
So thank you very much. My name is Kawushi Anthony from Kenya Association of Waste Recyclers. So we are a business membership organization for the private sector entities recovery from waste. So this includes repair, recycling, manufacturing, essentially anything that is geared towards converting value from anything that would have otherwise been discarded as waste. We started in 2017, so that makes us around 10 years strong in the industry, and we are proud to be the national umbrella representing recyclers and the entire waste value chain. So from our perspective, public-private partnership, we'll look at it from two very critical angles. First of all, is in regards to the issues regarding the market. So we as an association have clearly identified that the market is one of the key barriers that is affecting the sector. And to address this critical need, we need to have a very strong public-private partnership. And to that front, the association have pursued a collaboration with the National Treasury in regards how to enhance the market for the recyclables, and not just the recyclables, but the products that are emanating from the waste value chain. We tried to have a very long public procurement process, and we initiated that process because as much as we are doing the cleanings that we are doing, if we do not have a guarantee of take from whatever that we are doing, it means that our businesses are prone to fail at a certain point. So that is one of the critical angles that we are looking at this. The next one is the formulation process. So we have had that county governments are domesticating the Sustainable Waste Management Act. And even that process is very delicate because there stands a possibility that whatever they are doing, so much as it's very good, if they are not involving the key actors that are actually in the waste value chain, there is the possibility that whatever will come out from those policy process will not be representative or not represent the interests of the people as they are actually doing the job. And so for that, the association has been very deliberate, and maybe just an aware, for example, last week we had engagement with Mombasa County. They are in the process of investigating the act. They are one of the counties actually that have pioneered this process. Some other counties have done it, but that crucial transition is a very, very difficult process, and we felt that the representativeness and the need to have everybody's view, especially those people that are actually doing the job, involved is a critical strength that should be duly considered. Maybe also as another example, Kisumu County earlier this year has started this process, and the bill had gone up to the county legislative front, but it was rejected for the mere reason that whatever they had introduced in that bill was not supportive, it was not coherent, first of all, with the national provisions and also the interest of the people that are actually doing the job, the waste value chain actors in that sector. So I look at it at those critical fronts, the policy formulation front and also the market front. I think those are the critical aspects that should be considered when we're talking about private-public partnerships.
Thank you so much. So to Dr. Fred Odhiambo, I see we discussed most of the circular economy conversations and initiatives being mostly done in the plastics and fabrics and textiles. Do you think the food sector is receiving enough attention in matters circular economy? And where do you see some of the greatest opportunities, for example, in your industry like dairy? And what are some of those partnerships that are quite vital for the food circular economy space?
My precise answer definitely is to say no. The food sector is not getting good coverage. And if you look at, I know when you look at matters to do with the organic waste, the plastics and all that, these are shiny things. You can see them. They can also be easily washed away by maybe But if you look at, because I know the statistics actually show that the organic is good to more than 70% wastes. And the question is, how much are we doing? Okay. I know maybe in the dairy sector the waste is not that much because to some extent we have when you buy milk when it's fresh, you know, it comes in a sometime, then in a katika. You know, in some cases, if that was the normal food, it would have actually thrown it away. But I know some of us, especially those of us who grew up in the village, will most likely transform that milk to maybe something like fermented milk. Okay, so in as much as the national, as much as
Someone is saying that I have a loud voice. Which is a plus.
So what I was saying is that clearly we are not getting the same attention to the food sector, and I know maybe just to speak about the dairy sector. I know quite a lot is being done. We try to reduce the organic waste as much as possible, and that is why we've even seen we've enabled the private sector to be as innovative as much as possible. You remember some time back you could only maybe have maybe milk maybe lasting up to 7 days. Okay, but right now we have milk that can actually be there up to maybe 90 days. Telling you that indeed, if you can be able to be innovative enough, you can also be in a position to reduce this waste as much as possible. Okay, given that we have a sector that is more combining more of the smallholder dairy farmers who are actually forming the 80% of it. We look at the people who are doing the transport of this, transporting the milk, and also the people who are doing the processing of this milk and even collection. Then realize that along the way, of course, there is a place that we find that we still have a lot of wastage, and that is at the cooperative level before this milk is actually processed. So that is where we still have a lot of challenges. But regarding how we've been able to maneuver that, we've been able to work with the stakeholders. We've been able to work with them, even in terms of coming up with the regulations, coming up with the strategies to do all that. Because if you look at, so from where I stand, I'm a regulator who does not produce any of that milk. Okay? There's a farmer who is producing it, there's a processor who is processing that milk, there's a transporter who's transporting that milk. I only come at the end, just to make sure that everything is okay. So what that means is that what we've done to make sure that the end product ends up still being fit for human consumption, we've given our players the leverage. I can talk about dairy sustainability framework or roadmap that we have as Kenya Dairy Board, that was developed by Kenya Dairy Board. But remember, this was just not developed by Kenya Dairy Board. It was developed also by the stakeholders. Okay, the rulers and the rulers who in this case is the regulator sat down with the people who are actually using this, who are the industry players, to come up with a roadmap that is going to help them do all this. And one of the things that we did is to make sure that some of the I would say like proposals actually came from the industry players themselves. So for us, it's just to give guidance and that is what you've given guidance. And with the guidance that you've given so far, we know that we are trying to make sure that we reduce the wastage as much as possible, and also to promote circularity. And in this case, we're even talking about now looking at what comes from the dairy sector. We're looking at milk manure. We're saying this, we can actually make our farmers to even come up with small, biogas plants to do something about that. In terms of dealing with the wastes, we're also saying that we are promoting the private sector again to come up with ways of doing this, biodigesting or small biodigesters to make sure that whatever comes from the sector is actually well taken care of. Of course, even when coming up with very high premium products, we talk about cheese, okay? That's where we also usually see a lot of wastes. But you're saying that instead of just coming up with one product but creating another problem, we're saying we can still do what you can now call upcycling, whereby we can still even make from the whey wastage that we see, we can still be able to make whey proteins. That we've also seen that a lot of guys, especially those bodybuilders, are using a lot of it, and all of it is actually important when we can actually use our own products. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Dr. Fred. And you talked about stakeholders. And one of those stakeholders, I believe, is also our large retailers. So my next question goes to Oscar Ogonyo. So the retailers, they sit at the interface between the consumers, the suppliers and the consumers. So how are retailers influencing the consumption of more circular and sustainable products? And how are you maybe pushing it and driving it from your end? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Oscar Ogonyo. I'm an ESG expert with a bias towards climate change and circular economy. So I wear many hats, but most importantly, I work for Nigeria Food. You probably all know it as Carrefour. So yes, you're right. We are at the center between the suppliers and the consumers. And a lot of burden is usually placed on the consumers to consume responsibly. And I say it's a very well-placed burden because two factors: responsible consumption and responsible production. Sometimes you want to ask producers to source ethically, produce only that which needs to be consumed by the market, and then take it to trade. But then again, it is the consumer's patterns that inform how producers manufacture or process products. Let me take for example, and this is not an affront to any iPhone user, but iPhone is always releasing, I think, every year or every half year, and there's usually this craze that when a new phone comes out, mine is already too old, and therefore there's a rush to always pick the new product. But then you find that your previous iPhone, it's only 1 year old. I mean, you have like 4 more years before it goes moribund. So by the fact that the consumer is making this craze acceptable to the producer is going to keep producing. If everybody decides, I'm going to buy a phone and I'm going to hold it for 4 years, I'm not going to buy a new one before this one goes moribund, then it means that if the producer makes a mistake of producing, then they're not going to get any return on that kind of investment they have made. They are not going to make that mistake again. So what do retailers do? Number one, ensure, first of all, it's also good to appreciate that in our supply chains, most of the people that we engage with are micro, small, and medium enterprises. And when you're talking about MSMEs, they don't have the economic or financial muscle to pursue robust ESG or circularity initiatives in their businesses. They are simply looking to make profit so that they stay afloat. So because we are a client, a very critical client for them, that means that we have a responsibility to help them embrace maybe some initiatives that might not come to them at a quantum, but also helps them generate good products. For example, I'm going to bring in a
sure that before I'm placing these vegetables on the shelf, I cannot trace harmful pesticides on that tomato. I cannot place harmful herbicides on those sukuma wikis, because at the end of the day, it goes to the consumer. And when you buy cabbages from our outlet and then you fall sick because it had chemicals, you don't want to know who planted those cabbages. Everybody is now, I bought these things at Carrefour and I fell sick. You get, so we are bearing the brunt on both sides. So how do we help them? Number one, can we access them to financing facilities with a guarantee that I need this kind of product on my shelf, and this farmer does not have the money to produce it, but then there is a financier who can give this facility. And the guarantee to this financier is that if this farmer is able to produce a product of a certain quality, I am going to pick it and I'm going to put it to the shelf. So to the financier, there is already guarantee that if I give my money, it's able to give this kind of product, therefore I'm going to get a return on this investment that I have put. That's the kind of support we give. If you go to other suppliers, perhaps manufacturers, other processors, you'll find that in some of our outlets, before you access, you'll find some strategic bins that have been placed there. Some of this came not even in response to the newly enacted EPR regulations, but someone has decided, I'm going to enact a take-back scheme whereby I want you to partner with me to talk to your consumers. If they have electronic waste at their homes, instead of allowing them to go into dump sites, they can come drop it at your outlet while they're shopping. We are setting a second bin so that we can collect textiles, that used clothes and shoes that your consumer is not utilizing at home. We are setting a third bin for glass. We are setting a fourth bin for plastics and all other composites that are used to package all other materials. At the end of the day, we are just an interface because we are not a recycler, number one, and we are not a waste collector. But we have an avenue for the supplier to interact with the consumer to bring back the waste, and then the supplier finds a way to get that waste to link it to either a recycler or an upcycler, but then it finds value. What do we demand from them? That after you have made every collection, you need to furnish us with significant reports so that we can, there's traceability, we can know how these waste streams are moving and that they are actually being recovered and not just coming from our facility or our outlet and going to a landfill. So at the end of the day, we're here to encourage consumers to consume responsibly, but at the end of the day, if consumers are unable to consume responsibly, they are going to encourage producers to produce more, and the producers will bring it to trade, and we cannot turn those producers away. So it's a responsibility between both parties, and it's our work to enable them to live sustainably.
Thank you so much. I think as you talked, you brought in the aspect of waste collection. So our next panelist is Andrew Mange, waste from Big Brother CBO. And when you've mentioned the waste collection, we'd like to understand from your perspective as you collect waste, what are some of these partnerships or relationships that have been quite important in your industry, and how is it working for you? And also, what are some of these challenges you've seen as you try to recycle the waste and ensure, as you say, we are not just putting it back to the dust?
Our first relationship and collaboration are the clients that we do service for. Right now, since we are from the informal settlement, there's always a conflict. First, I have the first panelist speaking about segregating at waste. But now, these are the low-income people, low-income earners. So if you tell them to segregate from the source, inamaanisha huo mama mwenye alikuwa kuna plastic ataiweka akajipimishia mwenyewe. You get? Because they also want to earn. So what happens? Me and the service charge that I'm going to receive, it alone can do or can sustain whatever business we're doing as waste pickers. So it's a good thing they would be segregating from the source. But again, as a waste collector from the informal settlement, I will not be able to meet other things like operational cost and everything. So I think collaboration with them is good because we will be segregating. But now inafanyika ati wakianza kusegregate from the west, si atakuwa na do. So there's that conflict. And then the question is, when the policy was being made about segregating at west, we know it's a good thing. But now, did they put in consideration the people of the informal settlement and the best speakers from those informal settlement? Because now for them, the value, whatever we are calling value addition in West collection in the informal settlement, ndio do yetu, sio service charge, kwa sababu service charge haitaweza. So for us, that's why I'm very glad today. I'm sitting with 3 doctors here. That is one of the biggest things, because now they are the think tanks. Now let them start thinking, how will they be collaborating more with the local West speakers? One of the chini. The policy gives us a very good name, PSP, private service providers, but it's just a fancy name. Implementation of these people. I heard someone talk about packaging waste. Guess what? Hiyo ndio ile kitu inataka pesa kidogo sana. We have PETs from the bottles that were produced in food packaging. Do you guess what? They are the lowest. Hiyo ndio iko na bei kidogo. The single paper ya mkate, a ton is 1,000 shillings because a kg is 1 shilling. So you can think, if I collect it and also think about recycling it, kubeba 1 ton ya karatasi ya mkate inatoshanaje? So if we won't be collaborating from that point and just them empowering us from down there, we will be talking, but resources, there would be enough partnership as us even talking about it, because if mtu mmoja na produce mkate moja na anatupa once, na inahitajika tano moja, every recycler atachukua one ton. So if they don't look at us as major stakeholders, if they won't want collaboration, wakatuambia shikaneni watu wengi CBOs mingi ndio tutafute 1 ton ndio tuweze kuuza. And these I'm trying to think it's PET. How many CBOs will that be? So collaboration of kwanza pale, we should be the first people they contact before making these policies. But I'm glad today that we have think tanks here, we have doctors here, and I want just to hear what they have to do in terms of that collaboration.
Thank you so much. I think makofi kwa here to get this diverse perspective and even from our panel, and it's talked of something very important. Kubeba biashara kutoka chini mpaka juu. And I think Mr. maybe that's what you've been able to do within the circular space. How are you able to move from just the pilot phase to a commercial phase? And what kind of collaborations, as you're saying, and partnerships have enabled you to now see it as a commercial enterprise?
At Ecolab Solutions Africa, we actually specialize in decentralized waste management solutions. That I said, the biggest challenge today is organic waste actually, because nobody wants to deal with organic waste, because organic waste fetches the least value in terms of, and it's humongous in terms of quantity. He's talking about bags, single use, like the bread wrappers and stuff like that. Imagine a ton, moving a ton, and you get just 1,000 shillings. What about organic waste? Organic waste is the least, you can say least lucrative business in terms of waste management. So we offer that decentralized solution for composting, and we put other solutions also. And when it comes to the enabling thing for us at Ecolab Solutions, it has been partnerships. We've partnered with various, you can say, Bharati Reid, we've got Kenton International Schools, like Kenton as well as Nairobi International School. So basically, the enabling thing has been like, first and foremost starting again with the regulator, where NEMA recognized the solution which we are offering. They gave us an endorsement that this is something which is a game changer in terms of waste management. And it not just starts with individuals or communities or institutions, it cuts across all segments. So basically, with the regulator also giving us an endorsement, this is where it really helped. And we had other partners, like I mentioned, the Planet Innovation Center and other Inc. and some other development agencies who actually helped us to take these solutions to the grassroots level, interact with various institutions, research institutions, and validate that yes, this actually works. So that's how we actually have managed to go to the next level. So it's very important for us to recognize that innovations may not just be, they will just remain innovations if they're not accessible and there is no awareness. So the biggest challenge which we actually face is when it comes to the awareness aspect of it. Believe you me, we walked into a very esteemed national school of Kenya, and we met the head of the school. And when we told him we are going to sponsor certain organic composting bins called Aerobin, worth almost 300,000 shillings, and the head of the institution was like, "You're coming to Puja Pongesia Klasiana." Can you believe? Now this is where the level of awareness fails. Imagine a head of institution of a national school. He has the audacity of saying, somebody is sponsoring that this is how we want to progress, bring things to students to learn, interact. And he says, "You're coming to add work." And he refused. And we had to approach other schools. So there have been enablers and there have been challenges also. Awareness being the main thing, and we're looking for more partners to actually create this awareness and bring the solutions to light. So that's what I can say.
Thank you so much. I think before we skip to awareness, because we have a media person in the house, let me just go back to the policies. So, Dr. Fred, you said the regulation, right? And as I began, I had also mentioned when we went around speaking to food processing industries, they also give us the same feedback Mr. Andrew here is giving us. Yes, that the policies are good, they're helping us become more innovative and creative in the circular space, but at the same time, there are quite a number of challenges. They're even saying some of our policies are more reactive. So my question to you is, regulators, because they often seen as rule setters, their work is to set rules and to set governance structures, but as time is moving on, it's also expected that these rules are supposed to enable innovation. So how can the regulatory institutions be able to strike a balance between protecting the consumers and at the same time encouraging circular innovation?
It's okay.
You guys have insisted my voice is okay. To answer the question, first, yes, it is good to acknowledge that from time immemorial, before I think as regulators, our work was to write the law, okay, enforce that law, and of course punish those who deviate. That was what it was, okay? But I can tell you right now, just talking specifically about the dairy sector, we've been trying as much as possible to involve the other stakeholders to be able to come up with something that is actually industry driven. not only something that is coming from the government's perspective. Okay, and with that, we've actually gone to the point of even looking at things in terms of risk-based. Okay, it just doesn't look like just because the law is there and someone will be just doing something. Probably even if they are doing that thing, is it of a risk to the consumers? You're saying. So we are trying to create that, leverage, whereby we can only assess depending on the level of risk that probably that innovation or that aspect in terms of processing the food or doing something is going to have on the consumer. So for us, I think we are on the right track. Most of the government policies, again, they are still, as we say, you write, enforce, and punish those who do not follow. So, but I think there's that paradigm shift currently with the government, all the government sectors,